Dog Films presents Paid to Dream with Charles Dennis.
Hello, and welcome back to Paid to Dream. We've been off for a few days because our producer, Hazel Sepenuk, has gone off to Rome, and then when she comes back, she's leaving. I gotta get over it. But she's going to work for public broadcasting, which is very, very exciting. So, best of luck to Hazel, best of luck to all our guests. And my guest today, I was a guest on his show, but now he's a guest on my show. Mr. Tommy Kovac, who has done over 2,400 podcasts. What do I know? Tommy Kovac, are you there?
It's such an honor to be here. It's over 2,600, actually, not 2,400.
2,600?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yes, and I've been an admirer.
Who am I?
I've been an admirer of you for so long. It is such an honor for me to be here, and I love watching this show every week. I actually got something for you.
What is it? What is it? I love gifts.
Reno in the Dock on VHS.
Oh! Oh! I can't believe you spoke with Gene Mack for over an hour.
Yeah.
He could go on forever.
Yeah.
By the way, you notice I'm going to take this off. It's so hot. But I put this on in your honor today.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm a San Francisco boy thick and through.
Wow. What part of San Francisco did you grow up in?
A little town called San Mateo, a place where a lot of famous people are from. Merv Griffin, Chris Christopherson, Barry Bostwick, Dennis Haysbert, who was actually in my mom's graduating class. They actually grew up together from like kindergarten all the way through senior year in high school, and she still talks to him today. So that gives you an example of what a small town it was when they were growing up. Now it's all Silicon Valley based, and like very few people know each other now, which is sad.
Yeah. Well, you know, the state of the world is certainly, it's spinning faster and seemingly out of control, but we like to think that whether it's the people from up there or in here, whatever, come along and say, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Start being nice to each other again. How hard can it be to be nice to each other?
I know.
Well, I learned something today, and I want to apologize. There's another Tommy Kovac.
Yeah.
A cartoonist, an artist. I just thought, oh man, this guy does everything.
Yeah. No,
have you met him?
I have not. I want to email him and ask him if he gets mistaken for me, and that we should, put it on our social medias that we're not the same Tommy Kovac that we get mistaken for. I'm thinking of doing that. But yeah, I get mistaken for him all the time, including I had a guest one time. She actually went on his website and saw some really graphic, dark kind of drawings, and she thought they were mine, so she actually changed her mind about doing the interview. But then later, when she found out I wasn't the same Tommy Kovac, she ended up doing the interview.
Well, that was very kind of her. Have you thought about doing a podcast with him?
Yeah, I have thought about doing that. That's another thing I'm thinking about doing in the future. I had a Canadian actor on a couple years ago. His name is Thomas Kovacs with an S at the end. And I started off with the interview saying, just so you know, we're not related. And he's like, I know.
Well, he's more than one Kovacs.
Yeah.
I knew another Canadian actor, Geza Kovacs, I think was his name. Or maybe it's his kid. Who knows?
Well, there was Ernie Kovacs in the old days. There was Ernie. Yeah.
Ernie forever. He was a god to me when I was a kid. He was so brilliant. I mean, for one simple gag, he would get into a tank with a desk with his ubiquitous cigar.
Yeah.
And he would pretend to be smoking it underwater, and he had filled his mouth with Ready Whip. So we went, and the smoke came out underwater. That's genius.
Genius.
And George Schlatter has acknowledged that there would be no Laugh-In. There would have been Laugh-In without Ernie Kovacs. And just all that kind of.
I agree.
And all the Richard Lester stuff was all Kovacs inspired. These mad moments that just pop out at you.
Yeah.
Well, it's really sad. Interesting thing. I watched a podcast with you on camera, and you were talked about people recognizing your voice only because they don't see you.
Right.
I remember my mother was a huge fan of Larry King. She'd sit up late at night listening to him on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And when he turned up on TV, she stopped watching. I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "He doesn't look right."
Yeah. Yeah.
Mom, it's the guy. That's what he looks like. It's the same guy that you admire.
Yeah.
It's not the face I put on him.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a heavy guy back then too, and then he had his heart attack, and then he lost a lot of weight. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, he wasn't much to look at, especially back then. But yeah, I mean, I love doing the audio only because when I was in the hospital recovering from my car accident back in 2015, I listened to a lot of WTF with Mark Maron, and I just loved the intimacy of this podcast. It was like listening to old time radio and just hearing the vulnerability of the guest and Marin just asking questions. It was just like magic, so I knew like from the get-go I wanted to do an audio only podcast.
How did you start?
Well, this is what happened. So yeah, I had the car accident in January of 2015, and I discovered the podcast world while I was recovering. And I made a false start to start a podcast the following January while I was in recovery, just frail, and I was trying to get other comedians to join in because I had gone back to doing stand-up comedy after my accident and stuff, and I couldn't get anybody to participate. So then, that summer, I go to see the filmmaker Kevin Smith was doing a Q&A at the San Jose Improv. It was like a screening of a movie plus Q&A and stuff. And during the Q&A part, he mentioned how the podcast world was starting to blow up at that point in 2016. And of course, the pandemic made it even bigger. But at that time, more podcasts were starting to be made. And he really inspired me to give it another chance. So after I had pulled myself out of a really bad situation, my mother and I, during that period, we were homeless for like 4 years, and we...
Whoa. What happened? How did that happen?
A toxic relationship she was in. She was with my stepdad for, over 20 plus years, and things got really bad in the mid to late 2000s, and it just kept getting worse and stuff. And lots of money was spent, a lot of stupidity was to be had, and so we ended up couch hopping, living out of hotels for a few years. It was really, really bad. And this all happened when my accident happened too, which was the worst time to do that. So our situation stabilized by early 2017, and we moved into our apartment that spring, and within 2 weeks I started the podcast. And I was sick the first couple of weeks that we were moved in, so it gave me plenty of time to think about what I wanted to do. And in the early years of the podcast, I presented myself on camera. I was hoping that Hollywood was going to discover me because I wasn't familiar yet with what the new business model of show business was yet. I was still using what the YouTubers had done previously to do that. And so I would present myself on camera, and then I would show the audio only interview. I would play it. And I got tired of doing this after a year. I got tired of dressing up, trying to find something different to wear, and I was putting on weight. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to make this whole thing audio only completely. And that's how it started. And, I got to say, even though I've been lucky since day one with getting guests, there were long periods in that first year and a half where I had trouble getting guests. And when I look at my episode guide, which has, the dates of each guest, right? There were sometimes weeks, sometimes a month before I had another guest in those early years. And I can't believe it. But then since the pandemic, oh my God, it has just been one after another. And I am just so lucky.
How do you get guests?
Same way I got you through DM, I mean, I was going through management a little bit in the early years. I stopped doing that around late 2020. Got to a point where, a lot of managers, they forget what your audience is and what your demographic is. So they start pitching you people who are completely out of your wheelhouse. And after you turn them down for a while, they get upset, right? So I was just like, yeah, I'm going to avoid this. After 2020, I'm going to avoid this. And plus, word of mouth has been spreading. There's a lot of people who recommend me to their friends that I'm also a fan of and stuff. Because I only interview people that I'm a fan of and people who I respect, So, yeah, I just been lucky that way.
It's my dog. I have two Boston Terriers, and one of them is talking about getting a podcast. And I said, how's this going to work? Yeah, I mean, but
Yeah.
it seems everyone has a podcast now, which is wonderful in a way. But I mean, how do you surf through them all?
I know. 6-7 years ago, I used to say to people, I think everyone should have a podcast. I don't say that anymore because it's getting insane now. And podcasts are just not, a lot of them are being hosted by celebrities, like big celebrities now.
Yeah, what are they needed for?
Yeah. And it's like, they're not as entertaining as like, the early podcasts of like Mark Maron and a lot of the comedians who had them. They're just becoming like, watching a TV show, but on the internet, and everyone is just talking about fluff stuff. They're not solving the world's problems like the earlier podcast did,
I know, it's like they might as well call it the blow me show. Come on, I'll blow you, you blow me, and
Yes.
help the audience. When I
Yeah.
was a kid, in the Jack Parr show, which was the second Tonight Show, because Steve Allen hosted
Right.
the first one. But Jack Parr, the thing I miss, Jack Parr had the most interesting guests because they were conversationalists.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't selling a book, they weren't selling a movie, they weren't selling an album. They were just on there to talk about life.
Oh, yeah.
And it was wonderful.
And they
now
smoked
it's just-
cigarettes. And they smoked cigarettes during the interviews. Yeah.
Well, did Larry King stop smoking on the air? I can't remember.
Yes,
Because he was a big smoker.
He did. Yeah, after that heart attack, he never smoked again on the air.
I miss Larry King. I used to run into him to Beverly Hills. Hey, how are you? How are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm good. How are you, Larry? Wow. Well, I had asked. Oh, well, let's talk about the horror films for a bit.
Okay.
Because this is a. I don't know when we did mine whether you talked about my dipping my toe in that genre. The first screen credit I have is a movie called The Thirsty Dead.
I can't remember if we touched on
It's
that.
not ringing a bell. I can't believe it.
Wow. Yeah, no, so after my accident, I went to a lot of horror conventions, and there were no horror podcasts yet. They were just slightly starting, but not really at that time. And I decided to make my podcast horror and sci-fi based, at first. And after a while, I was dealing with a lot of strange people, a lot of strange middlemen, a lot of strange horror people, and I was getting turned down a lot because at that point, they were starting to get inundated with, more and more podcasts and everything. And so after a while, I just wanted to make it a pop culture podcast overall, but still maintain the horror and sci-fi image because I had already built on it, and it makes me unique. And I still talk about horror during the months of February and October because February is Women in Horror Month, and then Halloween is October, of course.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Who deemed February Women in Horror Month?
I have no idea, but like when I found out that it was Women in Horror Month,
But you went along with it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, like, I grew up loving the Universal monsters. I loved the slasher movies, werewolves, vampires.
Daughter of Dracula.
Dracula. Bela Lugosi is still the best Dracula, and I've interviewed his son. And I've also interviewed Boris Karloff's daughter, Sarah, Claude Rains' daughter, Jessica.
I have a book called "There's a Body in the Window Seat," which is the history of arsenic and old lace.
Mm-hmm.
And I contacted Sarah, and she invited me to come and stay with her.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That was about 4 years ago now. She was very interesting.
Yeah, she's very, very interesting. Yeah.
Ultra right wing, but,
Oh,
what are you going to do?
I don't know her politics, so that's new to me.
Yeah, well, I was sort of trapped there listening to it.
Yeah.
Her urging me to hold my nose and vote for Trump.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah. I sent her a copy of the book. I've never heard from her again, which is okay. I spoke to Boris Bella Jr., but he was. When did you meet him or speak with him?
Oh, Bella Jr. That was in 2019, I want to say.
Really?
Yeah.
And he was okay because he was out of it when I spoke with him.
He was a little out of it. Yeah. I actually ended that interview thinking, wow, he's going to pass soon. But he's still alive from what I know. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Goodness. No, but I meant when we were talking, when you first brought up the, women in February, Gloria Holden, who was the daughter of Dracula, she had her own movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
No.
Daughter. Oh, track that one down. It's really good.
Okay.
She was a very good actress. But I had asked you to give me a list of your 10 favorite people, podcasts, and at the top of your list was Gina Schuck, who's got a terrific story with the with lawsuits and everything else.
Yeah. I'm a Go-Go's fan since I was 11 years old. I have always loved the Go-Go's, and I was always hoping to get one on the podcast. I've had Gina on twice, and the first interview I did with her is my favorite. I have never heard her be so vulnerable in the last half of that interview than I have in anything I've ever heard her talk on. I mean, she really trusted me, and we just had a great talk. And her boyfriend / manager who set up the interview, he's a big advocate for me. He likes me too and stuff, and they listen to my show and stuff. And so that was just really profound that I got to talk to a rock and roll Hall of Famer. Like, I never thought that would happen. So she's absolutely my favorite guest that I've ever had. Notwithstanding you, Charles, you get honorable mention because I had a lot of fun with you.
Yeah, we did. Now with that list you sent me was in descending order from favorite down because you had Mitzi and Charlie, Mitzi McCall, and I directed Mitzi in Hard 4.
Yeah, that's one of my absolute favorite interviews too, because the whole time they were doing their husband and wife shtick, and they were just making me laugh out loud, and they told funny stories, and I knew the timing was right, because by that point Mitzi had just had COVID, and we didn't know how much time she was going to have left. So I'm glad that we got to do it, and it was just a blast. And I'm still in contact with their daughter Jenny and Charlie a little bit. I heard he's not doing so good right now, but it was one of the most absolute greatest interviews I've done, I think.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Tommy Chong.
Okay. When I did that interview, I was considered cool for about a week by everybody in my hometown. Okay, because in the Bay Area, they love pot. So like I had people like I went to school with reaching out to me saying that was so cool. I had my best friend. He told me at least 10 times in a month span that that was a cool interview. And I was like, you know what? It's a good it's fun, it's entertaining. It's not the best interview either of us have ever done, but it was great listening to his stories. Even though I didn't get to ask all my questions, which I'm sure he's been asked a million times, it was still a blast, and I'm still proud that I got to interview one of my comedy heroes, Tommy Chong.
Oh, that's so cool. So cool. Carney Wilson.
Oh, that's one that I still can't believe happened. So I had reached out to her husband, Rob Bonfilio, and he didn't know me from Adam, but he connected me with her because we had mutual friends that had been on the podcast. And we kept rescheduling, but then we eventually did it. And I didn't want to do a career deep dive on her because she's written books and everybody pretty much knows her story about being Brian Wilson's daughter and stuff. So we did, I do this thing called a Nerd Out where we talk about film, television, and music from childhood. And I had heard her say in an interview that, she's a kid of the 70s. She mentioned some movies and TV shows that she was into in another podcast. So I was like, this is a great angle for us, right? And we just had a blast just being two nerds in this interview, and I got to meet her in person last year at the Hollywood show, and that was fabulous.
Well, when I was a teenager, I worked for the Toronto Telegram, my specialty being movies and theater, but they thought, well, he's a teenager, we'll send him to rock concerts, so I was sent to see these guys, the Beach Boys, okay?
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about the Beach Boys then.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back, realize an opportunity missed, and I went backstage to interview them. So Dennis, well, then years later, I became friends with Karen Lamb, who was Dennis's first wife, I guess. I don't know. I remember we were having lunch. We were having lunch one day, and while we were having lunch, Dennis Wilson drowned, which was. I have this book coming out in October, Tommy. Maybe you can interview me again. It's called Who the Hell is Charles Dennis? And it's all about, my life meeting, interviewing, interacting with people. And I had a list at the beginning of 3 murderers who I'd known, celebrity murderers. But, it's just strange. It's a very, the longer you do this, the longer you meet and speak with people, the interstitching of our lives is extraordinary.
Is Robert Blake in the book?
No, although I used to, I met him several times at Ed Begley used to have a roller skating birthday party, and Bobby Blake was there. And of course, I used to eat at Vitello's a lot, but we never really spoke. He was always standing there brooding about something, probably figuring out where to stash the gun. I don't know.
Yeah.
Weird. Now, the makeup lady, Van Neal.
Yes. I met her at a horror convention back in 2019, and I don't think she gets a lot of people coming to her booth, even though she's a multiple Academy Award winner. So she looked a little puzzled.
Three Oscars.
Right. And I don't think a lot of people come to her booth anymore. And I think she was puzzled that somebody wanted to talk to her, right? So she looked very stunned by it, right? And I was like, I have a podcast called Splat from the Past, and I've been a fan of your work forever. I was wondering if you'd like to be a guest. And she said, it's a possibility and stuff. Let me give you my card, right? And I gave her my card as well. And then about, I don't know, a week or two, I followed up with her, and we did it, and it was a lot of laughs. She has a great sense of humor, and I was bringing up like movies that she never gets asked about, that she was surprised I knew, that she had even forgotten about, and she remembered stuff about doing them. So that was a great one.
Like what movies? What movies? You're dangling the rat in front of me here. What were some of those movies?
Well, of course, we talked about the ones she's famous for, like Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands and so forth. But then I brought up there was a filmmaker named Albert Pune who died recently, who made a lot of low budget B exploitation type of movies, and she had done makeup for a movie he did called Radioactive Dreams, and it's a very beautifully made like B movie. Visually, it's stunning, and she did makeup for it, and she was shocked I even knew it. She never gets asked about it, so that's an example of one I mentioned.
Bobby Rydell.
Oh, so okay, I grew up watching the movie Grease. That's like one of my mom's favorite movies, and it takes place at Bobby Rydell High, right? So as a kid who grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, I was always watching that movie, and I became familiar with his music a little later. And just the fact that I got to interview the namesake guy of the high school in Greece was just everything to me, because I knew that, he was up there in age. He's an old, Philly, teen idol guy. I was like, I'm never going to get Frankie Avalon or Fabian or any of those guys. So I got Bobby Rydell. Now, by this point, he had written a memoir, and he kind of was over the whole career thing, because he's talked about it so much, right? But it was just a pleasure talking with him for 40 minutes or so. I cherished that interview.
So is it that your love for Greece that brought you to Carol Demas?
Actually, no. Okay, so I used to see her pop up in things like Voyagers and Route 66 and things, right? And I knew that she had a kids show called The Magic Garden, which I became aware of when I started getting into the convention scene. ChillerCon in New Jersey has Magic Garden reunions with her and her friend Paula all the time. And so I had her on the show. It was my 7-year anniversary show, and we
Oh
talked
my God.
just under 2 hours, and we just had a blast. And she was very candid and open with me. We talked about a lot of stuff, and she is just a wonderful, wonderful human being. I love Carol Demas.
Cynthia Stevenson.
Cynthia Stevenson, another white whale of mine. I grew up watching her on television in various
I
movies.
don't think it's going to like being called a white whale. I understand the Melville illusion, but
Well,
someone you hunted.
it's getting to the point now where the word bucket list has become cliche. I used to use that a lot. Now I just say white whale.
I
So
like it.
So, I grew up watching her on TV and in movies and stuff, and we had mutual friends, and she was happy to do it, and she was adorable and sweet, and I'm trying to get her back on a second time to do a nerd out with me. So let's see where that'll take us.
What constitutes a nerd out?
Oh, okay, so I made reference to it earlier. A nerd out is when we talk about film, television, and music that we grew up watching, And because I'm an old soul, I grew up watching all my parents' stuff. And so when I'm talking to like baby boomer age people, we can have like a relation kind of conversation of growing up watching Gilligan's Island, let's say, or watching an old movie like Rebel Without a Cause or something like that, or listening to Johnny Cash or something, So we talk about film, television, and music from childhood.
Now, here's a favorite of mine, and I'm glad you got to her before it was over. Anita Pointer.
Nita Pointer, yeah, that was one of the last guests I got from a publicist that I was getting guests from at that time in 2020. Yeah, I did a great talk with her. She was just wonderful to me. She actually sent me a copy of her book. And shortly before she died, I had sent her an email saying hi, asked her if she wanted to do a part 2 with me, and then she died like maybe a month or two later, and I was devastated. But I cherish her book. It's signed by her, and that's always been a favorite.
Melanie Mayron.
Oh, she's a more recent guest. I just had her on a few months ago, and she was wonderful. I mean, we were talking about, her career and stuff, and she was very open with me and fun, and she said she'd like to do another one with me in the future. I'd like to talk with her about some movies we didn't talk about last time and stuff, but she was wonderful. Like, I'd love to have her back.
Well, we were talking before about voices. Having started off on radio when I was 8 years old, I'm very much attuned to voices. And listening to you before I met you, and I don't know if I'm the only one who noticed, but you sound remarkably like Seth Rogen. Has anyone told you that?
No one has ever compared me to Seth Rogen. I have not gotten a voice comparison about anybody. People have told me I have a unique voice, no doubt, but never a comparison. But that's a compliment. I like Seth Rogen.
Well, you can start calling people and saying it's Seth Rogen, and they'll believe it, and then you can slowly tell them the truth.
Yeah, but then they'll go, yeah, but you made that movie, The Interview. It was offensive to Asians.
Well, you're offensive to no one, Tommy Kovac. It's been an absolute joy, and I hope we get to do it again. Next time, I'll come back to you, and then you can come back to me. Listen, this has been Paid to Dream. Go ahead.
Charles, I mean this sincerely. This has been a total joy and an honor because I've admired you for a very long time. And yes, I'd love to have you back on to talk about your book. Thank you so much.
Fabulous, fabulous. Listen, folks, it's Paid to Dream. Everyone has the right to dream. Everyone should dream. And tell everyone that you like this show. You like Tommy Kovac. Click like, click subscribe. Get on board. See you soon.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Charles.